in any case, my point is kind of that I actually think there's potential here on a sort of optimistic note. I think that you have to really think about it hard, and a lot of work has to be done to, is it even going to be called religion? Is there going to be a God or a godlike figure? But I think that you actually can have, and we have these old values which are good. We love free speech and all that. And if you just sort of adapt it to the enemy of reason that we now face in this sort of woke thing, and also the technological advancements that have completely changed human existence. I mean, the internet has to have a clause in whatever religious text is next. And I really do believe that. I'm a big supporter of like Internet Bill of Rights. People sleep on the impact that the internet has had on human existence. But in any case, I'm rambling a bit.
We're slowly waking up to that one.
Yeah.
That nightmare.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it, because in order, again, it comes, for me, this is my bias, very explicit though, so I can have it, is that a narrative is a way of encapsulating knowledge and transmitting knowledge from person to person experientially. It is set up in such a way as that it models how we actually live, and you have a sense of whether it's believable or not believable. Coleridge, which was a opium smoking poet back in the Romantic period, he spoke about fiction, or the operative action of engaging in fiction as this willful suspension of disbelief. And I think he totally got it wrong. It's that a good story, taunts you to invest your belief into it. So if we're going to package information from one person to another, from one generation to another, inevitably will start to use stories. And those stories, once they become canonical, will become the sacred text, like the Avengers, tengilogy, or however you say it, decalogy or whatever. Eventually that you go back down into talking about gods and demons, superheroes and supervillains. It eventually goes back into a sort of polytheistic thing. Now you can have a refined relationship to the story. And you see, like, a 4-year-old kid will start to dress like the Hulk, and when he puts on those masks, he starts acting that out. He starts acting out his aggression, and he starts playing around with that two-sided nature of the Hulk. Very smart, very aggressive. Or any given superhero kind of talks about an aspect of if it's a good story, it talks about an aspect of human becoming or just human nature, and it gets that across in such a way that a 4-year-old can interact with it and not know what he's doing, but really understand himself through that story, all the way up into somebody who is an edgy 16-year-old saying, okay, well, here's all the different meanings of it. And that's the cool thing about Jung and then Peterson and his way, because these stories, our relationship to the stories can be playful. And you actually can arrange these things and have a conversation, have a dialogue with these stories, and then start to see things about your life that actually, the cool thing about the Bible lectures that Peterson gave is that he's resuscitating this ancient text to a whole new generation, people who don't go to church, never wanted to go to church, completely allergic to church. And he's now tying their imagination to the imagination of people thousands of years ago. So you start to have, through that story, through that transmission of these ancient stories into the modern context, you start to have this slowly edging the awareness of where we are as part of this long tradition. And then with that comes the responsibility, not just of cleaning your room, but of forwarding and protecting this value structure, this Western civilization. And then start saying, okay, well, these other ideas are going to come in and just want me to tear it down. Now I have a basis of saying, okay, well, what are you going to replace it with? Because now I have all this value out of my culture. I see that there's problems, but what are you going to give me in return for dismantling these things? It starts to cause us to do more cost analysis with the destructive aspects of deconstructive intersectionality.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think the endeavor of building an alternative value structure, because I think a big part of what's been happening is people have been saying, like, classical liberalism, we'll just use that, like it'll work, I promise. And it seems to be doing poorly in this sort of, it's not working very well. And I think that It's needless to say, I think we could do hours and hours on it. People like us who are interested in these things have got our work cut out for us in,
Oh, yeah.
I think, dissecting this very core question.